Hello, this is Katie. Welcome back to my channel. This is Watercolor Wednesday. I'm going to be using Spooktacular by Lawn Fawn, one of my favorite Halloween stamp sets. And I have watercolor paper that is cold press and 140 pound, which is a good average of paper. And then we'll be using the Concord and 9th dye ink cubes that they released recently and my porcelain ceramic palette. I said I would use these in a Watercolor Wednesday because I wanted to show that you could paint with ink, watercolor with ink. And because the pad is foam, these press really cool onto the ceramic palette. And because I had the privilege of watching many videos of watercolor people on YouTube who have been doing it for years, I got to learn all the things that they wish they had known when they started. And one of them is using a ceramic palette. For watercoloring, not necessarily dye in this situation, but for watercoloring it mixes better. It doesn't bead up like on plastic or metal, and it cleans off totally clear, which is my favorite part. And this I just rinsed in the sink and it all came out. Watercolor is a bit different. I have to like put gloves on and just kind of rub my fingers around, but it comes off clean. But this, since it's just ink, just rinsed right out. So I'm showing you the inks that I am smushing into the palette. I'm going to use the Aqua Sky for the ghost. And essentially what I'm going to learn for most of this video, by the end of the video, is to not use so much water. I do use the VersaFine Onyx Black ink on the watercolor paper, which should be fine. I think I just used too much water. Normally you would have, you would sketch in like pencil and then use a pen. Like there's like Stettler pens. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I bought some of those. And I have been outlining, if I want something outlined, with that pen and painting over it, and that works. So maybe the VersaFine Onyx Black isn't the best for like watercolor paper, maybe Bristol Smooth. But I do another witch hat at the end in the purple, which is what that purple is for, which is eggplant from this die set. I'm trying to get cat hairs out of my watercolor, which is a daily struggle. I do another witch hat at the end with less water, and it works out a lot better. What you'll notice is that my ink, the black VersaFine Onyx Black ink that I stamped the images with, can leak with too much water. So to avoid that, we should have used less water. So unfortunately, most of the images kind of look like that. They do, when they dry, have a kind of a cool watercolor look, so I'll probably still use them on a card because I like them. But the results are a little bit better with less water when you're using the ink, which is not the case with watercolors. You can use more water to get a lighter color. Watercolor is meant to be translucent and watery. So because it's ink, it's obviously very different. And with less water, this probably would have ended up being a much orangier pumpkin. But that's okay. I can also go over him again. I can go over all of these again. You can keep adding layers with watercolor, so I could easily go over it again. I could even use my actual watercolors and go over these images again to get a deeper color out of each of them. But I had promised you I would try to watercolor with these inks. And as long as you don't use too much water, I think you can do it. And if you want to get into it, the watercolor paper is not that expensive. I think that pad is like $5.99, but they're also on sale, so they're almost always like buy one, get one half off, or buy one, get one free, or something like that. I really like this paper that I showed you for watercoloring. I've been using it. I did buy some more expensive paper, but I don't reach for that as often because I'm still learning and I want to learn on cheap paper. I would rather spend money on brushes and watercolors, more expensive ones, and have cheap paper to start out with. So there are two grays in the set for the ink. There's Dove, which is the lighter gray, which I have on the tombstones, and then there's Mushroom, which is what I'm using on the cat and the bat. And I had intended them to be darker, which probably would have happened if I had used less water, but they're not too bad. There's police sirens outside my window. I'd say I promise I live in a nice area, but it's like on the edge of not a great area, so we're just outside of a not super good area. But it's not that bad. It could be worse. There really aren't police sirens that often, I promise. But that one decided to be loud. I don't even know if you heard that. I tend to think that you can hear more than you actually can when I am doing a voiceover. And lately I do voiceovers anyway, but I've been running my dehumidifier in my craft area to get the moisture out, which is working well because my paper was getting, I don't want to say moist, but I could tell it was kind of trying to get damp just because we live in a moist area. And so I have it running while I'm crafting, and it's very loud, so I don't really do real-time recording or talking because I want that thing to work all the time and get all the moisture out of my paper. On this ghost, when I use the Aqua Sky, I probably used a lot too much water because he kind of puffed up on the paper. And the paper already kind of puffs up like where you stamp it. I've noticed that lately, even with my Memento ink on my normal cardstock, when I use like Copics, if you stamp it and then before you color, if you run your finger over it, almost feels like a tattoo. Like it tattooed the paper. It either just started happening or I haven't noticed that my stamps have been doing that. I used a lot less water here with the green, so that's the key. It looks a lot better. It's not so thinned out or light. And I was putting pink inside the cat's nose, which is, I think it was called honeysuckle. I really like that color. These inks are really nice. I'm obviously just painting with them, but obviously you can use them for stamping. But they're very bright and I love all the colors. I am again using VersaFine Onyx Black just to stamp the witch hat again. I'm going to wipe out the well where I had the purple to make it dry and then stamp. I just love the foam. It stamps a perfect square. Use a lot less water, just one more little dip in the water, and then we'll paint with this and it comes out a lot better. So if you do want to use these for that, I recommend kind of testing it. Maybe stamp a few of the images and test what water level works better for you. And just keep control of it and don't let the water flow too much over the lines or it can kind of start to puff up and blur. But hopefully you enjoyed this video and you take a chance watercoloring with any dye inks. It doesn't have to be these ones. I just happened to get them and wanted to play with them. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys for Freestyle Friday in a couple days. Thanks. Bye.